Good evening and welcome to another edition of our show. My name is Chaplain Abel, and our message this evening is entitled Public Enemy Number One. By way of introduction, Charles Arthur Floyd, better known as Pretty Boy Floyd, robbed numerous banks in the Midwest and allegedly killed 10 people, 5 in what was called the Kansas City Massacre in 1933. The FBI branded Pretty Boy Floyd as public enemy number one. The FBI killed him in 1934. Miss Parker was 24 when she died. Mr. Barrow was 25. We know them as the notorious Bonnie and Clyde. For 2 years, they held up gas stations, restaurants, and banks in the Southwest. They killed 12 people, mostly police officers. Because of his ruthless nature, Clyde Barrow earned the title Public Enemy Number One of the Southwest. In May of 1934, law enforcement officials killed them. John Dillinger attracted national attention for a series of crimes committed in the Midwest over 13 months in 1933 and 34. His gang included Babyface Nelson and Pretty Boy Floyd. They robbed a dozen banks and held up 3 police stations to free fellow gang members. In July of 1933, the FBI identified John Dillinger as public enemy number one. On July 22, 1934, federal agents shot and killed Dillinger as he exited a movie theater. The FBI has always reserved the title Public Enemy Number One for the most dangerous and notorious criminals. Yet I'm here to tell you they are next to nothing compared to the real public enemy number one. You won't find his name on the list. His picture will never appear on a wanted poster. He will never be the case study for America's Most Wanted. He is ruthless, dangerous, without a conscience, and vicious. His name, Lucifer, Satan, the devil, the prince of the power of the air, robber of souls, destroyer of eternities, devastator of families. He is public enemy number one. Tonight, I want to acquaint you with public enemy number one by sharing with you 3 things we need to know about him. And we'll be right back.
Storms assail the little ship you're sailing in. When darkness closes in and of God begins to burn. And as our words are tried, God is satisfied, because he sees now true faith is being formed. Trust in God, though you are tempted sore. Trust in God in your raging war. Trust in God when your life has come apart. Keep on believing, you can safely trust in God.
And that was trust in God. Before we go into the three things we need to know about him, we need to start off by reading in 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 8 and 9. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Resist him, steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same sufferings are experienced by your brotherhood in the world. First, he is our enemy. The devil is our enemy, our foe, our adversary. He is not a friend. There's a word in the verse I want you to see, and you may even want to underline it. You see, the devil is not just an enemy, he is your enemy. By way of illustration, an insane gunman in Australia became the enemy for a large crowd of people. He killed 34 people. A terrible incident. Yet for us, it's headlines. It's tragic, but he is so far away, he cannot harm us. He is an enemy, no doubt, but he is not our enemy. This is not the case with the devil. He is your enemy, and he is out to get you and me. If Satan went after Jesus Christ, don't you think he is coming after you and me? Satan is our enemy, and we had better not take him lightly. Second, he is a sneaky enemy. The Bible says he prowls around. There is just something sneaky about a prowler. That's exactly what Satan is. Sneaky. By way of illustration, back when I knew no better, I used to observe Halloween. One night I drove over to my brother's place, walked up to his door, got down on my knees and put a sheet over my head and pretended to be a trick-or-treater. When he opened the door, I said in a high voice, "Trick or treat." He said, "Oh, what a scary ghost." After filling my basket with candy, I jumped to my feet and lunged at him. It scared him to death. That night, I was certainly a sneaky person. Satan is always very sneaky. He intervenes in situations without us knowing he is there. In what areas of your life does Satan subtle attack you the most? Whatever it is, you can be sure that he is there trying, influencing the situation. Third, he is a defeatable enemy. Every person labeled as public enemy number 1 was a loser. Every one of them was gunned down or spent their lives in prison. They did some damage. They were dangerous, but they were ultimately defeated. Satan will do some damage. He is dangerous. However, he will ultimately be defeated by the victorious Jesus, and can be defeated in our lives as well. How can we defeat Satan? Well, first, to defeat Satan, we must be alert. We have to read back on 1 Peter back in chapter 4 and verse 8. And above all things have fervent love for one another, and for love will cover a multitude of sins. Be hospitable to one another without grumbling. Joe Louis was the heavyweight boxing champion of the world. He fought 71 times professionally. He lost only once. During the decade and a half he held his title, he defended it 25 times. Bill Stern, the voice of American sports on radio, decided toward the end of the Brown Bomber's career that he would interview him and find out the techniques over the secret that Lewis employed in fighting his opponents, and how he could win over people who were at times much larger than he. His answer was very simple. I study my opponent. I plan my fight very carefully. The results are always the same. 1, I am never surprised, and 2, I stay on the offensive. That's pretty good counsel for dealing with the devil. Satan wins many of his attacks and victories because he surprises us. We need to be alert. Second, to defeat Satan, we must be self-controlled, as we read in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8. This means that we need to be able to say no to Satan's temptation. If you go over to Titus, in chapter 2, in verse 12, Titus chapter 2, verse 12, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lusts, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in the present age. So Titus 2:12 teaches us to say no to ungodliness and worldly passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age. What can help us to say no? Prayer. If you read over in Matthew chapter 6,